Hey everybody, trying to get some feeding video here tonight, but it's not really working out for me. I just put some snails in Butterbean's tank, but of course he's acting contrary tonight. He sees me moving around and he's getting all freaked out, and I got the lid off his tank so I could put the snails in, and he's just not happy. And because he's not happy, we're not getting very good video of Butterbean having his dinner. So we're going to give him a few minutes to settle down, and maybe we'll get back over there. But in the meantime, I already dumped some snails in this tank, but I'm going to show you me dumping some more snails in this tank. Let me actually get myself a little handful of them here. So that's going to go right in here. And while you might think I'm crazy just dumping pond snails like that into my tank, I've got loaches in this tank. I've got striped or strided loaches, whichever you want to call them, zebra loaches. They'll make short work of those snails. I don't ever have to worry about snails actually accumulating in this tank or breeding or taking hold or making a mess or anything else, because I've got loaches. So I've done this from time to time over the years. I'll just demonstrate me dumping a handful of snails into a tank, demonstrating my confidence in my loaches' ability to devour them. If you've got a snail problem in a tank and you're looking to get rid of them a natural way, loaches make for a great way to do that. You do have to get a little group of them. I've never met a loach yet that does well singly. They all seem to need at least a little bit of companionship of their own kind. But there are several species out there that stay fairly small, and something like this 29-gallon tank, I've actually got a little school of 5 loaches in the bottom. So even a small tank can accommodate some of the smaller species of loaches. And as I've mentioned, they're fantastic snail eaters, so you'll never have to worry about having any snails or anything in your tank. And in fact, I've got a bunch of them in my gourami tank here as well, and we can go ahead and dump some snails in this one. I'm going to need 2 hands to get the lid open on this tank, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of a look at what we're working with. I will put most of these in here, but then I'm going to save a few of them to just get dumped back into Butterbean's tank when he's not paying attention, and that way it'll give him some forage and it'll give him some stuff to look for and hunt for while he's in the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on pause for half a moment. Alright, and the snails are just now making their way to the bottom of the tank. So I'm guessing we will get to see a little bit of action with the loaches, but the last time I did this, we didn't get to see a whole lot. The loaches came over, they checked it out, they looked at it, and then they kind of swam away and they didn't make much of a fuss about it. But I don't have any snails accumulating in my tank, so they're obviously in there making short work of them. I just haven't actually seen them doing it, so we'll hope for the best. I was beginning to think I only had 2 neons left in the tank, even though I put quite a few of them in there the other day, and now I'm looking down in this far end in the corner. I can see some of the neons down there lingering around, but it's only 4 or 5 of them, so I'm still missing several neons, I think. And for as much as I was trying to blame that little South American bumblebee catfish, I'm going to have to say that I think maybe after all, this striped Raphael has been coming out at night and making short work of some of my neons. I've also not been able to find my other Siamese algae eater. I put 2 of them in this tank, and after the first day I've only been able to see 1 at a time, so I suspect I've lost one of them too. They were both really small. And while I got the camera out and rolling, we'll take a quick look over here. There is one of my Siamese algae eaters in this tank. Oh, there's the other one. I was going to say, I hope I didn't lose another one in here. You can see right there is my other little Siamese algae eater that I recently bought. Now, up until right this moment, I've never seen them more than a couple of inches away from each other. They always stick together side by side, and I was actually going to point that out, and yet I come over here and now they're on 2 separate sides of the tank. I also wanted to point out my snail right there, still doing well. And if you look down here, I've got the other one. So the 2 mystery snails that I put in this tank are still doing well. Happy about that. I do not have any loaches in this tank. If you have loaches in a tank, you can't keep snails, any kind of snails, big snails, small snails, nearite snails, mystery snails. Can't keep snails with loaches. They will not survive. The loaches will eat those snails no matter what size they are. So that was just supposed to be another little video showing you my confidence in my loaches to devour the snails out of my tank. And yes, I did just dump a handful in here. It's one of my little skunk loaches, so he might be down there figuring out that there's some snails on the bottom. And of course he's gonna hide in the darkness there where we can't see him anyway. So nothing going on there. Let's come around here and have a little look at Butterbean and see if he hasn't found his snails for dinner yet. It looks like he's found them now. See if we can get a little closer without zooming in, get a better picture here. I'm telling you, it just still strikes me as odd that after all the years I've been doing this and shooting video of this fish and standing in front of this tank and talking about him, he still is shy in front of this camera and he gets intimidated when I come over and start talking about him. But you can see his behavior now. He's kind of looking around and he's sort of cruising the tank. He knows there's food in there now. He knows there's forage in there and he's now hunting. So this is what we would see as natural foraging and predation, or the natural behavior anyway. If you're not familiar with the term enrichment, that's what this is. Enrichment is basically giving animals something to do to simulate in some way their natural environment or their natural activities. If you think back into the days of the old menageries where you'd see like a lion or a tiger or something just in a metal cage, you know, that wasn't very good for the animals in a lot of different ways. And we're finding out that just simple lack of enrichment, you know, imagine if you were just stuck in a room with nothing to do all day, it would drive you mad. But if you had some crossword puzzles and some things to keep your mind occupied, maybe some tasks to do, some chores, it would improve your health mightily. And the same thing goes for fish. If you've got a fish, especially a fish like a puffer that's a little more intelligent than your average fish, they need stuff to do. They need things to keep them occupied. They need activities that simulate their normal, natural activities. Maybe not up to and including like running from predators and stuff. But foraging for food and looking for their natural prey is a really, really good source of enrichment for most animals. And if you've got any kind of animal, you know, like a puffer, if you've got any puffer at all, then feeding them your shrimp pellets or your freeze-dried krill or whatever you feed them on a daily basis, if they come up and eat it out of your hand, all that's well and good, but you should still probably sprinkle some snails around the tank when they're not paying attention, or put their food in places that they're not used to it being, and that will give them something to do. They'll have to look for it, they'll have to find it. Anything that gives them activity, anything that keeps them occupied or gives them something to inspect or examine is always a good idea. You can take, rearrange the decor. You can add new ornaments or remove ornaments or it's just anything that changes it up that the fish has to now re-examine their habitat, and it gives them something to do. So I do feed the snails in there on a fairly regular basis, but it's only partially to give them the snails as a food source. It's more to give them the activity. You know, I can feed them the processed food, and he'll get all the nutritional needs met. He'll get his teeth worn down, the proper way by feeding him the freeze-dried krill and everything. But I feed him the snails like this more for the enrichment aspect of it. It's the simulating his natural behavior, him being able to hunt for those snails and find them, and wait for the right moment to swoop in and snatch the meat out and all that. That's all natural behavior for this fish, and it's pretty important to simulate that in most animals. I think we do this instinctively with a lot of animals. We play fetch with the puppy, we play with the ball of yarn or the laser pointer with the kitten. All of these things are enrichment. You know that if you ignore your dog, he starts getting weird and acting up, but if you just give him some attention and pet him and play with him, then your dog will act a lot more normal. Well, something similar is going on with fish, so just keep that in mind if you ever get any kind of more intelligent fish, like a puffer in particular. Puffers are notorious for needing enrichment if you want them to thrive. If you've got a puffer and you just got it in a bare bottom tank with no decor and no vegetation or anything, you've got a very, very unhappy puffer that's probably not going to live very long. Good thing to look for is their belly. If their belly is nice and white, they're happy. If their belly is dark gray or, darker, they tend to be more stressed out. Butterbean is actually a little stressed out right now. If he rolls over a little bit for us and shows us his belly, you'll see that it's actually a little bit dark right now. And that is because I had to take the lid off this tank. The hinges on this lid are broken, so I actually have to remove the entire front panel and set it on top of the tank, and I'm banging and making noise and any kind of thing that disturbs him. I'm telling you, he's just a really, really skittish fish for the aggressive reputation that these puffers have, and for being such fearsome, bold fish. My little Butterbean here is just as timid as can be. So I don't know if I've got an unusual fish or an unusual specimen. Maybe if you had multiple specimens in the tank, he might behave differently. I don't know. But I've never had any aggression. I've never had him bother any other fish. In fact, I've had to remove other fish because the fish that were in the tank with him were stressing him out. So I used to have some mollies and platies in the tank when it was a smaller tank, and when he was much younger, and he was just stressed out constantly. Those other fish were just too boisterous for him, and they totally stressed him out. So I actually had to remove the other fish for Butterbean's safety, whereas most people tend to remove the puffer for the sake of the other fish, because the puffer is nipping their fins and biting them and eating them. And Butterbean has never been like that. He has always been really, really timid and docile. So I guess he's done. He's back to pacing the corner, trying to get away from me. He's been acting like this all evening. I've been trying to get some decent video of him. So I guess we're going to call this video whatever it's worth, what we got. So make sure you're subscribed. That way you won't miss anything I got coming up. You never know what you're going to get with me. It's always something. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, this one is my brackish tank. I'll see you real soon in the next one.